In a move that's not really surprising anyone, Microsoft announced that they're going to be raising the prices on their games moving forward to kind of match what Nintendo did. And this was something that people were worried about when it came to Nintendo announcing that Mario Kart World was going to be $80 because they say that that's just going to grant permission to other companies to do the same. And it looks like Microsoft is following suit. As of May 1st, we have adjusted recommended retail pricing for our consoles and controllers worldwide. We also expect to adjust the pricing of some of our new first-party games starting this holiday season to $79.99. We understand that these changes are challenging and they were made with careful consideration given market conditions and the rising costs of development. Looking ahead, we continue to focus on offering more ways to play more games across any screen and ensuring value for Xbox players. Now, take a note of this because they talk about market conditions and a lot of people are going to probably point to tariffs and say that's the reason why the pricing is increasing. But they say that they're recommending this worldwide. So that suggests that it's not the tariff thing. It's just, like market conditions that go with inflation. But if it's because of inflation that they're dropping this all at once, then okay, I think that's kind of poor planning on their part. And also, they say it's with careful consideration. This is how they came up with the price, but it's kind of convenient that they landed on the price that Nintendo landed at too. It really is just Nintendo made the first big leap in charging more for video games. So other companies are saying like, okay, we got permission now. So Nintendo did it, so now we can do it. And now, if you recall earlier, several months back, a lot of game developers were hoping that Grand Theft Auto 6 would charge $100 for its game upon release because that's a game that probably could justify the price increase, or at least they could still sell a lot of copies even with the $100 price tag on it. And that would essentially just give other developers permission to charge $100 for the game. Turns out that's not the case unless they actually do move forward with $100 pricing for Grand Theft Auto 6. But I'm thinking at least for the time being, they're probably just going to follow what Nintendo's doing and charging $80 for this. So they're the ones who can take all the heat for increasing the pricing of video games moving forward. Now, I've said in the past in regards to this, I don't necessarily have a problem with charging more because I think some games can be worth the extra charge for it because let's just face it, not all games are equal as far as the value that you get from them. Some you get more value than others. That's why I think some games can justify it. But by Nintendo doing this and Xbox following suit, I'm thinking that they're going to stop doing it just for some of their premium releases. And it's just going to be kind of the standard price in the industry moving forward right now. $80 Switch 2 and now Xbox games aren't a big shock, analysts say, and games haven't really been $70 for a while. The average price people are paying is much higher. This is coming from Games Radar. One gaming analyst reckons $80 games aren't too much of a shocker because gamers have typically been paying more than the base $60 or $70 price tags for a while. Nintendo made headlines with the Switch 2 reveal partly because of the console itself, but also because of its decision to launch Mario Kart World at $80, well above the $70 standard, and most publishers had transitioned to during the console generation. It didn't take long for other companies to follow either. Xbox just announced that at least some of its first-party games will also adopt the $80 norm, which will potentially affect this year's Call of Duty, next year's Fable, or any number of upcoming releases from Xbox Game Studio. So they're saying it's just going to be through some releases for the time being, but I think it is just a matter of time before it's going to be for multiple games that are coming out. Now, Nintendo did say, they already said like their new Donkey Kong game, that's going to be $70, Mario Kart World $80. So not all their games are going to be priced equally. And I think that's a good model to adopt. And if more studios started adopting that model where it's like bigger releases are the higher price and then the smaller releases are lesser price. I think even lesser price for digital releases too, since you don't have a physical copy. I can understand that. I think that's a little bit justifiable. And I even would be willing to pay a higher price for some games because if it's one that I can just power through in 8 hours, I think that should be charged less for that versus a game that I can get hundreds of hours playing. To me, you're getting more value out of that. So I can understand if the studio wanted to charge you more for that. And presumably it would also cost more in order to develop. So to me, that makes a little bit of sense. But what's wrong with this, and one thing I was kind of upset with Nintendo about was just the precedent that it could set, and that how more companies will follow suit, maybe without the care needed in order to justify the pricing points for each new release, because I think eventually they're just going to get lazy and be like, you know what, instead of just picking and choosing how much we're charging for each game, let's just charge the premium amount for each release. Cicana's games executive director, Matt Piscatella, isn't hugely surprised. The big games have not been $60 or $70 for some time at launch, he said. In an interview with Games Radar Plus, with all the collector's editions and gold editions and silver editions and all these other things, the average price people are paying for a new video game on average is much higher than the base price and has been for years and keeps inching up. So I'm not as kerfuffled about the $80 price point as a lot of other people are, because realistically people have already been kind of spending that, whether they want to admit it to themselves or not. And there is a lot of truth to that, and I will grant that premise, but at the same time, the base price was set at a certain point, and there were people buying that because maybe they didn't want all the other add-ons, or maybe they wanted to make sure they enjoyed the game first before they start investing more money into it, or maybe they just didn't have a lot of money to spend on it. I mean, when I was a kid growing up, I couldn't really afford too many games. My parents couldn't afford too many games, so I'd have to save up and actually really consider what did I want to get before I'd buy it. I think there's more people who are going to be taking that approach right now, especially with the increased price. Some people will probably just buy it, other people won't. But how he's saying that there's different editions of games and different packages that you can get. And yes, that's true. Some people will buy the base game and then they'll buy a bunch of additional stuff to it. Other people will buy like the deluxe editions on launch and other things like that. So yes, people are probably paying more than $60, $70 for games that they choose to pay more money for. But the problem I have with a lot of this is, like, let's say a game was $70 and they had like a deluxe edition launch for $100. Well, with the $80 price tag for the new game now, do you think that they're going to remain at $100 for the deluxe edition at launch? I personally doubt it. I think what everything's going to happen is everything's just going to shift to being more expensive than what it currently is. And that's something like I said, I don't really like that they're doing that. But again, I think some games can justify it. Most probably can't. Publishers sure can charge whatever they like, but will people accept the change? Piscatella reckons that the same kind of pushback has always come for these types of price hikes, though it doesn't usually work. Ultimately, if someone thinks a game is really cool, they want to play it, they're going to buy it at whatever price they need to buy it at. He explained that's just kind of the nature of price insensitive video games fans that want to play the game they want to play. So basically he's saying, like, yeah, people are going to complain about it, but when push comes to shove, you're just going to bend over and take it because that's what a good consumer does. And a lot of people might just be defeated by this. And like, you know what? They're right. It is just the future, so we might as well just accept it. But one thing that people can do if they really don't like this is just take a wait and see approach. Don't necessarily buy a game at launch or buy those deluxe editions right away. What you can do is just wait a month or two, because after a couple months, if they're not selling a whole lot, then they start putting them on sale. And at that point, that's when you can pick it up. And that kind of sends a signal to the industry. It's like, this is the price point that people are willing to pay for the game. Yes, they can probably sell some at launch, but if there's enough people out there who are just going to figure like, okay, well, we'll only wait until it goes onto the bargain shelf or it's on sale or some other deal like that, well, then that would be a pretty good indicator to the industry that the price is too high, or at least I think it'll give them a good metric as to what games they can justify charging more for and what games they can't justify charging more for. Because if the ones that are just, people are like, yeah, I don't like this price increase, but I really want to play this game. Okay, fine. As I was saying, some games have that kind of value, and if people want to play it, then ultimately you can play whatever you want. Let me tell you otherwise. I mean, I have no problem if people are wanting to buy something at launch. Me personally, I can hold off on it and not play a game at launch and wait a couple months, because the way I figure, if it's a single player game, then it doesn't matter if other people are playing it too. If it's a multiplayer game that requires a lot of people playing it online, well, I can still wait several months after it's launched, because if there's not enough people playing it several months after launch, then I'm probably not missing out on much to begin with. So that's my personal thought process on all this. However people want to justify it to themselves, they can. But if they just have no problem with the increased pricing and they want to do this, then yeah, don't let me stop you. I don't have anything against you if that's the approach you're going to take. Me personally, though, I'm just going to be a little bit more selective over games I choose to buy. Commenting on the broader shape of the today's industry, Piscatella points out that there is a much greater range of price points at different levels of the industry, from premium $80 games to typical topical hits like the $50 Clair Obscure Expedition 33, and down to many free-to-play games. And that's definitely true too, and I really have no issue with that. I would actually prefer if there was a bigger variety of pricing, so that people, no matter how much money you have to spend, you can find something. And there's also a lot of older titles, especially in the digital format, that you can play for cheaper amounts. So I would recommend people start exploring those two a little bit more often, because let's be honest, no matter how big of a gamer you are, there's probably still a lot of classic ones out there that you haven't personally played. So I think that people should give that a shot. Like if there's a major release that came out that you're not necessarily interested in buying right away, then try checking out something a little bit cheaper for the time being, just to hold you over until they decided to drop the price on that one. I think that would be a good approach for most people out there. But again, you can do whatever you want with your money. I think ultimately this is probably the way things are going, because let's be honest, everything is just gradually gets more expensive. I mean, there's no negative inflation. Things are just going up in pricing right now. So it's just a matter of time before this becomes the norm just across the board. And maybe like the cheaper games would be like the $80 releases. But one thing that people can do right now, like I was saying, they could at least slow it down a little bit if they're concerned about that. Or if they're not, then yeah, just buy whatever you want and play whatever you want. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there, because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.